Hi everyone, this is Manas Ram from Nivaa Sciences, and today we are in conversations with Her Holiness Divyanandaprana Mataji from Sri Ramakrishna Sharada Mission. This is part 2 of our series where we are going to be talking about spirituality and science. Welcome, Mataji.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste. Mataji, my first question is basically, can science and spirituality ever meet? Because in the last century and a half, there's one set of people who've been following scientific ways, and there's one more set of people who vouch for the spiritualistic ways. Probably people who go into monastic life and things like that. But there's a large population which takes bits and pieces of both sides and they're following it. So my question to
Right.
you is, can science and spirituality ever meet?
So let's try to understand this. See, science is works in the realm of the seen. You can say broadly there are two realms: that which you can see through the senses,
Hmm.
using the five senses, the perceivable world,
Yeah.
and there is an unperceivable world, what you can't see, but which is there. So science actually exclusively deals with the seen, the world which can be seen through the senses, which can be interpreted through the mind, and spirituality exclusively deals with the world which you can't see. So these are two realms of existence which each one is catering to, and as such, the methods of science do not exactly match with the methods of religion. Although, yes, in a broad way, you can say that the inductive references of religion are similar to which we use in Veda are quite similar to those of science. But when you go deep into this concept, which I have tried to do actually in many ways, you will see clearly that. It will lead to abuse of praman, which means the method of knowledge which you are using in science
Hmm.
does not tally with the method of knowledge you are using in spirituality. So far, it is not tallying. It is quite possible that in the coming future, as Vivekananda actually expected, science and religion will meet at points. Like, for example, today in neuroscience, when it comes to consciousness studies and research, there are common factors. You can draw parallels between
Mm.
what Vedanta says and what science says about consciousness. So, like this, there are points where you can draw parallels. But both these disciplines, and both of them are very solid disciplines, they are focusing on two different realms of existence. And you cannot abuse the praman, which means if you use the same method of knowledge for each realm, you are going to be in a soup. You have to invent a method of knowledge which will, like, for example, today we are studying happiness, the science of happiness in across a lot of institutions actually,
Yeah.
and according to Vedanta. So then we have invented our own tools to make that study and our own scales to measure happiness and all this. Like this, the method of knowledge which you use may be different. In that sense, it will take some time for science and religion to meet and shake hands. But Vivekananda did predict that in the future it will be possible in some areas, even now, you can draw parallels. I expect that scientists will become more uh, accepting of the methods of religion,
Hmm.
methods of spirituality to gain knowledge of the unseen, and religious people will become more broad and inclusive of the methods of science to explore the
Yeah.
realm of the seen.
I think it's already
I expect
happening.
that.
And at
Yeah.
Niva, I'm also working with a few kids. I call them the scientific spiritualists. My aim is basically
Yeah.
to try to teach them, as in what is the hidden meaning behind spiritual aspects. For example, even if you
Right.
just say Ganesha, it's more than approaching him as a god. We need to approach him on what is the sector where he helps, how he can benefit humanity, and we need
Right.
to understand the science behind it. So I try to teach them that, and I call them the scientific spiritualists. But while teaching them, I discovered that more than the kids, the parents are the ones who need that kind of education, because somewhere that link is
True.
broken in our
Yeah.
society. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is more about the consciousness. So Right now, there's a lot of quantum physics experiments going on, and there have been reports that they're trying to create consciousness using quantum physics. Now, that might as well help us understand consciousness. But however, when I look at it, the way I look at it, I feel
Yeah,
consciousness is something that can guide humanity. It can help me achieve the ultimate. But this whole process of creating
yeah.
consciousness itself somewhere seems to be something where people can manipulate it, use it in different ways. What is your
Yeah.
viewpoint on it? Will it help humanity in the longer run?
Well, consciousness as Vedanta understands it cannot be created. Consciousness as Western neuroscience understands it is nothing but brain chemistry.
Yes, true.
That's what they are calling consciousness.
Yeah.
In fact, all the modifications of the mind, which we call vrittis, in fact, there's a general term used in yogic sciences. It includes thought, emotion, will, the faculty of volition. All of this together uh, is being used under the umbrella term of consciousness in Western philosophy. So this is in stark contrast with what Vedanta is calling consciousness. And when Vedanta talks of consciousness, it is meaning pure awareness
Hmm.
and not thought, not an idea, and not an emotion, not a modification of the mind. So there's a broad difference, first of all, and the thing is today neuroscience is reducing almost every subjective experience into neurochemistry. Even happiness is considered as dopamine release.
Yeah.
But you tell me, please tell me, how do you feel happiness? You feel it as a burst of energy within you, as a lightness, a buoyancy about you. It's a feeling in your mind.
Yes.
What your brain is doing with its chemistry, that comes as you can say it's the hardware content. But the actual software, it's a feeling in your mind. So Vedanta is actually focusing on all these subjective experiences in a totally different way. And modern neuroscience is reducing everything to brain chemistry.
True.
We
Agreed that.
can we can take both. We can take both and make a study out of it. Yeah.
I think it helps some people, for some people, it helps them understand consciousness probably a little better. But I totally agree that merely studying brain patterns, thought patterns, and trying to replicate it cannot become
Yeah.
consciousness. That is why I have a concern that it will be used in different ways, which is not
Yeah,
good for
yeah.
humanity.
No, you're right. I was in fact telling my students some time back that tell me if you are given a good injection of dopamine or say serotonin, will you become happier?
Maybe for a few hours and then they're back on square one.
So you see, your thoughts are closest to you. Your mental realm is closest to you. In fact, your awareness is invested in your thought process. So
Yes,
if you learn a way of regulating your thought process and your mind, your happiness is in your hands.
true.
You don't require dopamine and external accelerators to change your moods.
True. Yeah, so that brings us to the next section where the importance of mind. Pretty much our mind creates everything. Any thought which comes into our brain or in our mind has the potential to create happiness, sadness, or change the way we live.
Right.
So, what is the role of mind as a creator?
Yes. What a beautiful question. Mind is the creator. In fact, mind is the creator of your experience of life.
Mm.
If you have watched the video on positive thinking, which I think we released it almost a year back, and it's already gone into 1.6 million views. The core of that video is this: that by changing just your ways of thought, you can change your experience of life.
True.
Because thought creates life. Life does not create thought. Please grasp
Yes,
this equation.
very well put.
Your thought, yeah, we are cognitive beings. In the scale of evolution, the human evolution has been so high. We have a brain and nervous system which is so developed. that the thought mechanism has the capacity to release your hormones, has the capacity to direct the function of your enzymes, has the capacity to impel your emotions towards whatever you want. Your thought mechanism does all of this. Please see this. And external stimulations are secondary in the human experience. So your thought will create your experience of life. Whatever you repeatedly think, you will become that. And thought creates life, and life does not create thought in the human. So, then the theory of evolution changes when it comes to the human being. It's not about survival of the fittest and natural selection. That applies to animals. The theory is not wrong. When Darwin said that ultimately it is natural selection through survival of the fittest, that definitely applies to the animal world,
Yeah.
where only that much holds. But in the human system, the evolutionary process has reached a culmination where the cognitive capacity supersedes everything.
Yes.
As a result, when you learn to think in a particular way consistently, one stream of thought, it will change your very mind, your brain, the release of the hormones in your system, the function of your the nature of your blood. That also can change with your thought flow.
Yeah. True. It our
So when
mind.
this is the influence of the mind on the body.
True.
So mind is paramount actually.
Agree, because whatever happens in our mind, because emotions are the reason for diseases. So it
Right,
has a
right,
great impact on our body, including our blood
right.
levels, sugar levels, everything.
Exactly.
That brings us to the next question, because we were talking about quantum physics and consciousness and other things. In the complete works of Vivekananda, when he wrote it in the late 19th century, metaphysics was still in infancy. So when you read it, we see that Swamiji's understanding about consciousness, universe, and the way he explains it, he knows in and out of it. However, when he equates it to metaphysics, it does not totally explain it because metaphysics somewhere failed at that point of time. Have there been any efforts at Sri Ramakrishna Sharada Mission to revisit his works and try to draw parallels into the latest findings in metaphysics?
I would say a lot of Vivekananda's works are revisited quite often by many of our monastics. In fact, there's a new compilation coming out also of complete works. And since we use the complete works of Swami Vivekananda so much, because a whole lot of very revolutionary ideas you will find in these works concerning the nation, concerning the whole world. So since we use it that much, we are constantly going into that. In fact, everything that I have been working upon has all the starting point has been Vivekananda. And I would love to tell you this that see mystics, how mystics and people who have delved deep into the spiritual realm through the practice of meditation. And Vivekananda was a dhyana siddha. He was not a mere philosopher or metaphysician. He was fundamentally a sage,
Hmm.
and his nature was meditation. When Sri Ramakrishna first saw him, he said he's a rishi of the Sapta Rishi Mandal, and he has come for a special purpose, and he's a dhyana siddha. His mind is merged in meditation. So such people draw their truths directly from the source
Mm.
and not from a metaphysical or philosophical paradigm, which is nothing but a mental thought construct of some powerful source.
Yeah. Okay.
So these people are going directly to the original source, which means what I mean to say is they are drawing from their experiences. And that is why if you read Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga, you will see how Vedanta has come in a totally acceptable scientific format in through Swamiji's Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. It is so
True.
revolutionary
Yes.
actually. Very intricate concepts like adhyas, which you will find in hardcore Vedanta. How Swamiji has brought it out, the concept of Maya, how the modern man will understand it, and giving the rationale behind it, showing the logic behind it, and it's all in the modern language. It's in English. So what I feel is when you draw directly from the source, what a seer says, what a rishi says, that cannot change. That's why Vedanta is for all time. They are principles, eternal principles of good living. And since Vivekananda's works are coming from that kind of a realization, he himself was a God realized soul. He was an adept in meditation. He had attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and he gave out from his own realization. And of course, he had a long association with his guru, Sri Ramakrishna. So, due to these factors, his words are final in this matter. If they don't fit into the metaphysical frameworks of today, I would say that the frameworks will gradually evolve with time.
True.
And not the truth which people like Vivekananda speak of, because they have drawn directly from the source. They have touched the source and they have spoken from there. In fact, if you read Vivekananda's 4 yogas, you will see that the modifications he has brought into works like Raj Yoga, they are revolutionary and original.
True. Yeah.
In some points, they even differ from the original Patanjali Yoga Sutras and all this, because Swamiji is adding his own insights. What he has seen, he is talking of that. So I would say that we should not ever try to change these words, but this much remains, that the frameworks in metaphysics and philosophy, which will undergo continual change as minds develop, and that definitely we can see how much it will tally with these very authentic experiences of both Vedant and of people like Vivekananda, Raman Maharshi, Sri Ramakrishna, who actually lived at the source and gave out these truths from there. So we never make an effort to in any way improve upon works like these, but definitely its application to the modern age, we can of course change that. In the sense, the modern age has been is so very different from what it was 100 years back.
True. True.
So how exactly we will apply these principles, that I think those are points of research where we can make changes. Yeah.
Yes. This pretty much brings us to the end of part two, spirituality and science. But for the benefit of the audience, I would like to say that every person or every graduate needs to read Swamiji's complete works, because it changes your approach towards the universe, and it has the ability to change your life, because once you change your mindset, your approach, you will pretty much change how you're living your life, what you want to do, what you want to pursue. So I would say every graduate right after graduation should read the complete works before they go into work and pursue their life ahead. Thank you, Mataji, for spending time with us. We'll meet again in part 3.
Right.